Hey, everyone, and welcome to episode number 86 of the Chris Rose Rotation, a production of JOMBOY Media. And I've known this guy now for 2 decades, although he doesn't really text me much anymore, doesn't call, he doesn't write. Why is that, AJ Pierzynski?
Because you're out at MLB Network. I don't need your influence anymore, Chris. That's why.
I'm in a better place, though. I'm with JOMBOY Media. We're taking over the baseball space now.
All right, well, can I get a job?
You've already got a job at Fox, a nice cushy job where you show up once a week, you call a baseball game for 3 hours, you get back on your private jet and head back to your beautiful home in Florida.
If you mean by private jet, you mean Southwest, and mean 250 of my favorite people, then yes, you are correct. I get on my private jet.
I would love to see AJ Pierzynski. Well, at least you get the business class, so at least you're like A6. And yes. So I have you for an aisle guy.
I used to do aisles only, and then Eric Karros, who obviously you know that we've both worked with, he's like, you always take the window, especially on long flights, because then if you fall asleep, you don't have to get up when someone has to go to the bathroom, so you're already in the corner, and they don't bother you when they walk by. So now I always take the window.
I was always thinking, though, with a guy like you, because people don't realize how fucking big you are. You're 6'4", what are you, 230?
I wish I was 230, Chris.
Oh.
No, I played at 255.
You played at 255 pounds?
Yes.
Are you like the heaviest catcher in Major League history?
I don't know about that. I think Sal Perez might be right up there with me right now.
That's true.
I mean, he doesn't look, I don't want to say, he doesn't look fat either. I mean, he's just a big guy, right? So, no, people are always, that was, when you go to like the carnival games, in Ohio and LA, you guys have those carnivals. Florida, we don't have those as much.
Yeah.
But, they do the guess the weight.
Uh-huh.
I could always win the guess the weight, no matter what. Because they'd be like, 200. And I'd be like, easy money. Give me my blow up doll or whatever it is, the stuffed animal. So I was always good for that one.
So are we sitting in the room where we're going to have the Hall of Fame victory parade later this month?
Yeah, totally. I'm at my little, I don't want to say it's an office, but it's like the entryway. You kind of see my door. If you look behind me, you see the back door to my house. I'll move the computer a little bit with the dog leashes and stuff. This is where I'll probably won't be sitting when no one calls me, whatever that day is. So, But I saw somebody voted for me, so I got one vote. So I'm happy about that.
But really? Do you know who it was?
I think it was Sullivan from Texas.
Okay.
TR Sullivan? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, you're not the first guy that people are going to think of when they're Xing out 10 names on a ballot this year. But you got more than 2,000 career hits. How many seasons did you get in? 18?
19. Come on, don't sell me short. 19.
Holy shit, 19. You were always healthy. You were a 2-time All-Star. You were a World Series champion. People knew you because, there's that guy, AJ Pierzynski, but you had a damn good career that you should be proud of.
Oh, I'm very proud. Listen, I'm very proud of my career. And I also realize how hard it is to get into the Baseball Hall of Fame. I think you look at other sports and in football and even basketball, but especially football, they allow 10, whatever it is, 8, 10 guys every year. Baseball doesn't do that. I mean, there's years like this past year, there's 0 guys that get in. So it's very hard to get in to the big. I mean, there's guys, listen, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, some of the greatest players of all time for different reasons. Pete Rose, they're not in the Hall of Fame. And it's very hard. It's an honor just to be on the ballot. It's pretty cool. The Hall of Fame sends you a sample ballot with your name on it. And the one thing I'll say is JP Morosi put out his ballot the other day, and I wasn't on it. So I texted him and I said, JP, we worked together. We were on the same crew at Fox. I can't get like a vote on there.
What was JP's response? Because he's such a nice guy.
Oh, he's like, I thought very hard and long about each of my selections. Unfortunately, you did not make the top 10.
Please just continue to bust his balls because you're just going to make. Oh God, it's gonna. Well, while we're here, why don't we discuss this? Because not only do you have the perspective of being a guy that played 2 decades in the show, but now you're a broadcaster too. Would you vote for Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Alex Rodriguez?
Yes, no.
Why the differentiation?
Well, Am I going to get in trouble for this? Probably, but whatever. Barry, I played with Barry Bonds, the best offensive player I've ever seen, ever played against, ever played with, by far. I know there's questions about whatever he did or didn't do, but offensively, even before all that stuff, he was unbelievable, and he was the best offensive player I've ever seen in baseball, and no one else is even close that I played against, played with. He was incredible. Clemens, I mean, the numbers add up. I know he, again, questionable things here and there, but 7 Cy Youngs, the World Series, the 20 strikeout games, all the things he did. Plus, I know what it was like, what a bitch it was to get into the box and have to face him. I mean, it sucked. Like, you're like, oh, this dude could throw one at my head. If I get a hit, if I take a good swing, he's going to chuck one in my face. So, he's gigantic, right? I play golf with him now, and he's gigantic. I'm like, how are you so big? And, he's actually a really good guy now that I've gotten to know him away from the field. And then A-Rod, listen, the difference in the three is Alex did it after he knew, right? He knew that it was, and he had already been caught, and he still did it. Like, so that's, to me, that's like just basically slapping baseball in the face. Like, when Barry and Roger, say what you want, it was kind of pre-testing, and it was kind of in the gray area. But listen, when Alex Rodriguez did it, he knew exactly. It's like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, when he bet on baseball, he knew what he was doing. And I tell people this, they're like, Pete Rose being in the Hall of Fame. I always say no. And they say, well, all the time hit leader. I said, yeah, but the first thing you do in big league spring training is you have to sign the Article 21, the no betting. They read it to you. You have to read it. Then you have to sign it. Then they read it to you in Spanish, just in case you didn't get it in English, or if you don't speak English, and then you have to sign it. And then they make sure you know what this means. They repeat it. You cannot bet on baseball. Don't bet. And so that's like a cardinal sin. And for me, that was kind of what Alex did. He broke one of the cardinal sins, which is after you get caught and then they're testing and you know the consequences and you do it again, that's kind of the difference.
I wholeheartedly agree.
It's sad. It's sad. Like, it's because did he need to do that? Probably not. He'd been a first ballot Hall of Famer, but sometimes, we make mistakes, and I understand you forgive people, but the Hall of Fame is a special place, and I know you're not supposed to look at it like that, but for me, that's the difference.
Well, if you say that Barry Bonds is the greatest offensive player you've ever seen, is A-Rod like number 2?
No, because if I had to pitch to one guy, I'd pick A-Rod over. I mean, listen, Manny, David Ortiz, Barry Bonds. I mean, I'm trying to think of guys that were just clutch in big moments, right? Manny Ramirez for me was Albert Pujols. Guys like, for me, Manny Ramirez was the best right-handed hitter in clutch situations. There were times where I'm like, oh no, Manny's third up and we have to get 2 outs before he comes up in the 9th inning, and I'm like, how do we navigate those 2 outs so we don't have to face Manny? Because right-handed in big situations.
Millar always told me that he was way smarter than people.
He acted dumb, but he's not. Especially baseball sense-wise.
Yeah.
He knew what the pitcher was going to throw. He knew it was amazing when he came over to the White Sox in, I think, 2010 maybe, for just like the last month or 2 of the season. We were trying to make a late run, and talking to him and getting to know him a little bit. It was really incredible how good of a hitter and how smart of a hitter and how he knew what the pitcher was going to try to do to him. How he'd set pitchers up. I remember catching against him, and he'd take a swing, and you're like, oh, he's not on that pitch. And then the next pitch, he'd throw another nasty slider. He just shoots you to right. And you'd be like, man, he set me up for that. Like, he took a bad swing, so he'd throw it again. Boom, base hit to right, like driving 2 runs. He was incredible.
So you had one season you mentioned with Barry Bonds, and you had an up close and personal seat to maybe the greatest season we've ever seen. Yes. The guy walked 232 times in 2004. It was the last of his MVPs. Was he a dick?
Not to me. Not to me. I mean, listen, he was the one guy. If I had one at bat on my life, if I said, hey, and they had to throw him a strike, but I need you to get a hit, I'd put my life on the line that he would be the guy to go up there and just absolutely smash a ball somewhere. If the guy had to throw him a strike. he was not. Here's what Barry was. Barry was better than everybody else, and Barry knew it. And if I was told, Nefi Perez, you remember Nefi Perez?
Sure do.
He was on that team too, and he came up to me early in spring and he said, "Hey, listen." And I was lucky when I got traded to the Giants. I knew Barry. We had gone to Japan together in 2002, so I had gotten to know him a little bit through that little tour that MLB does. And so when I went over there, we had a little bit of a prior relationship. But Nefi Perez said to me, "Listen, Barry's going to do something to you in the first couple of weeks of spring training. And if you just take it, he's going to wear you out forever. But if you kind of stand back, or if you stand up to him and kind of fire back at him a little bit, he'll respect you." And that was kind of the relationship we had. Listen, Barry did some things where you're like, what is he doing? But at the same time, he never did anything to me personally where I could say, hey, he was a dick to me.
See, but you don't take any shit. You stand up to guys. So that you were probably his perfect foil.
Yeah, no, we get along great. Listen, like I said, I mean, he walked, how many, what'd you say, 232 times? About 175 of those were intentional because I was hitting behind him. So they were like, well, we could walk Barry and pitch to the slap dick behind him and hit into a double play. Or we could pitch to this guy that's going to hit a home run. And, so like we were talking about, like Clemens came up earlier, right? I played golf with Clemens, I don't know, about a couple months ago in a golf tournament. We were talking about that year, 2004 was the year Clemens went to Houston. And his first start was against us, San Francisco, in Houston. It was the first game we beat Oswald. And we beat Oswald on a 2-run homer by Barry Bonds in like the top of the 8th inning. I think we won 2-1, 3-2, something. But no one could hit him. But for some reason, he pitched to Barry, and Barry hit a home run. And it's like they knocked him out. We win the game. Next day, we get Pettit. And the third day, we get Clemens. But I remember Clemens saying, he goes, I went up to Oswald after that game. He goes, why in the fuck did you pitch to Barry Bonds in that situation? Because he's the only guy on the planet that could hit you. And you threw him a cookie, and he hit a home run, and you lose the game. He's like, you just can't let him beat you. And then Clemens pitches 2 days later, and the umpire's strike zone was like, I mean, the screen, I only have so much of the screen, but it was like this wide, right? And Clemens goes, oh, yeah, I remember that game. He goes, I remember that game so much that I went up to Barry after the game or the next time we saw him, was like, man, I'm sorry. And I was like, yeah. I go, the umpire told me that he got so excited because you were pitching in Houston. The crowd was going crazy that he just called everything a strike. He goes, it didn't matter if it, I mean, I'm like, Roger, you threw me a ball that bounced 3 foot outside and was strike 3. And he goes, I know, I remember that. He goes, that was one of my greatest pitching performances.
Love it.
Hey guys, Poppy Gordo here. We'll get you back to AJP and CRR. But first I want to tell you a little bit about DraftKings because they're giving a crazy promotion as the NFL playoffs are amongst us and we're counting down to Super Bowl 56. Crazy number. And they're giving you 56-1 odds. You can win $280 in free bets if your team is victorious. That's right. You pick a winner this weekend. You know who's going to win. You're smart. You're a sports fan. What was that accent? And if you get that game right, which I believe in you to do that, you will get 56-1 odds. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code JOMBOY, JOMBOY. That's the way we JOMBOY. Get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets. If your team wins, that's promo code JOMBOY at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Let's get back.
So you also got to play with Big Papi when he was not only not Big Papi, he was not even David Ortiz.
No, he was David Arias at the time. So in Minnesota, when I was in A-ball, you have a Fort Wayne hat on. I was in Fort Wayne, and they were the Wizards. And David was in Appleton, Wisconsin, on the Wisconsin Timber Rattlers. I think that was what they were. And so we played against them, and we're like, man, this dude is good. Like, who is this guy, David Arias? He was at the Mariners, and we had no idea who he was. And then that off season, he was the player to be named later for some, I don't know, Dave Hollins maybe, or somebody, whoever it was, to the Twins. And so I was excited because we went to the Florida State League in Fort Myers, and for spring training comes, we hear, oh, we got David Arias. Well, then spring training, it was David Ortiz, and we're like, man, Terry Ryan traded for the wrong dude. We wanted the David Arias guy, but we got this David Ortiz guy. And he ended up, I mean, listen, he was in our Fort Myers and A-ball. We had him, Jock Jones, trying to think who else was on. We had a really good team. In the first game, I think it was the first night, opening night in Fort Myers, we're losing, I think, by a run, bottom of the 8th, bottom of the 9th. David's up. They bring in a lefty, and he hits a home run off this lefty. And I was like, and like every time, he was only there for like 3 months. But for like those 3 months, it was like every time we needed a hit, David got that hit in that situation. I was like, this guy is going to make it. And he was a great guy and obviously went on to have the career he had. And I think if you ask the Twins, they would say, that was one of the biggest mistakes they ever made was letting him walk. But at the same time, I mean, he was hurt a lot. His salary was going up. Twins didn't have a lot of money. They had some other guys they thought could be the DH. So I get it, but I mean, at the same time, man, if we would have had him in 2003, I really feel like we could have done some damage. We lost to the Yankees that year, but I think we could have done some more damage in the playoffs.
So you knew he was good, but did you ever think he would turn into Big Papi?
No. I told him that when I went and played with him in 2014 with the Red Sox. I was like, "Who are you? Like, you're not the same David. Like, you've changed. You've become cool. You become popular now. Like, too popular, too big for me." But no, listen, he was always one of my favorites. People always say, did you talk trash to anybody? He was the one guy that we would always have a nice back and forth when he came up to hit because we had known each other for so long. And he was always smile on his face and he'd say something about, my family, something rude, and I'd say something back to him. So it was always good. He was always one of the best.
I've known you a long time and I've always liked you. When did you decide to lean into the whole bad guy thing?
I don't know that I ever really leaned into it. It just kind of became a thing, right? Like, it just became a thing that wasn't going to go away. So at some point, you just kind of got to go with it, right? I mean, you want to fight it. In the beginning of my career, I kind of fought it a little bit. And, to this day, I still kind of want to fight it. Because as a human being and as a person, you're like, man, I don't want that to be kind of my legacy. I'd rather be like what kind of player you are and what kind of teammate you are, whatever it is. But, you can't, the media controls, as you know, now in the media, you can control the narrative of the media. Mm-hmm. You can make a guy look really good or you can make a guy look really bad, just depending on how you talk about him, how you say it, how you interview him, how you, if you're a newspaper guy, how you write the article about the person. So I never wanted to be that guy. But then as now looking back on it in my career, I always look back and say, you know what, I wouldn't have survived any other way. It drove me. It really did drive me to be a better player because ever since I can remember in like high school and even maybe before that, I always had stuff, right? Like, and I always thrived off stuff. Like whether it was like in high school, we'd get in fights and I was always kind of in the middle of it. In the minor leagues, there was, stuff. But I love being in the middle of it. And then you get to the major leagues, it's just a bigger microscope that's put on every player. And everything you do is so watched and so intense. And okay, fine. And then as it grew and grew, I just kind of learned that, you know what, I don't need this, but I want this stuff on me because some guys couldn't handle it. And I knew I could handle it. And I think that's why like Ozzie Guillen, right? We got along because he knew he could say whatever he wanted about me. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it. But then there was guys that he couldn't say things. So I think sometimes he would say things about me when he meant it kind of directed at other people, right? And I tell people, and this is not, I don't recommend this to anybody to do it the way I did it, but I needed a hate, like a hatred. I needed that feeling of the other guy hates me. And like Mark Burley, right, is a great guy, one of my better, best buddies in baseball, locker next to him for 7 years. And he goes and I face him later on after we're not teammates anymore. And I'm like, I want to hate this guy. Like, even though I don't, like, we're goofing around. He's talking trash to me on the mound and I'm trying to get a hit off him. But I'm like, trying to drum up hate just because that was how I competed. Like anger drove me more. Like, wasn't a fear of failing. It wasn't a fear of anything. But what drove me was like, I'm going to show whoever, like, if somebody said something bad about me, I was like, screw you. I'm going to show you that you're wrong. And that was just kind of how I had to do it. And then when I got to the end of my career, I realized I can't do this anymore. Like I couldn't fake it. I couldn't manufacture like that drive to get going every single day. And that's when I was like, okay, it's time to step away.
Did it hurt that there was that perception of you?
I think it hurts more now than it at the time. Yes. I mean, listen, there were things that were said that weren't true and things that were said that were, exaggerated. And that's okay. Fine. There's also things that I did that probably weren't the coolest thing in the world, but at the time it was what I thought was right. And, I guess you can apologize for them, but I wasn't trying to be mean to anybody. I wasn't trying to be an asshole to anybody. I was just trying to be me, and that was me. I don't put up with a lot because I think if you ask my kids, they'll tell you that I still don't put up with a lot at home. But I don't do it out of trying. It's just me, and it hurts. It hurt more like for my wife and my kids now that they're older because the internet never goes away, so they can Google me and my name, and their friends do, and I help coach my son's baseball team at school, and sometimes they'll come in and ask you about certain things that are written, and you just kind of laugh and move on and try not to dwell on it. But I mean, I wouldn't say it hurts, but you're just kind of over it now because I feel like I'm not that person, especially now that I'm not playing. Like there was a difference on the field and off the field, and I think people, because of the media, they only see you on the field. So when people actually get to talk to you away from the field, and the other problem I had, I wasn't a big like hanger-outer with like the other teams, and I wasn't a big like go meet behind second base and hug everybody, and because it didn't work for me, right? It didn't work for you see the guys now on TV and everyone's like meeting it behind second base and giving a hug. Like that was never me because I was trying to beat the other person. So I think there was things like if I could have done that a little more, hung out with some other teams a little more, I think it would have been better. But that wasn't the way I could do it.
It's really interesting. It really is. And I always kind of felt bad for you from that standpoint because I did get to know you a little bit. And so you were always one of the guys that people would ask me most about. Like, you're buddies with Pierzynski, aren't you? I was like, yeah, we get along really well. He's been great to my family. He's been great to me. I was like, why is he such a dick? And I was like, I don't think he is. I really don't.
See, that's the thing. Because if you don't, I always, and people, this is another thing. I always judge people like off the way they've treated me. Mm-hmm. And again, I was not nice to everybody in their life. No one is nice to everybody in their life, right? You try to do the best you can as a human being, and sometimes you fail. But again, I never went out of my way to try to be that, right? Be your boy Millar, right? He's friends with everybody, right? That's him. Like he's, happy-go-lucky, right? Like Sean Casey, right? That's Jim Thome, right? Like that wasn't. I mean, listen, I was an only child when I was raised as an only child. Listen, am I selfish? If you ask my wife, she'll tell you I'm damn selfish. I mean, right? Because I'm an only child. But that was I was always kind of taught and raised to look out for me, right? And that doesn't mean you're a bad teammate. It doesn't mean anything. Like because I wanted to win and do everything I could for my team first before me. But at the same time, like I was never an outgoing. I'm still not. I think if you ask people, I'm not a very outgoing, jovial. Like let's all go hang out. Like I have my friends and I have, I go with them and we do things and they get me. But if you don't get me, then I don't.
Yeah, that's okay. You mentioned that there's some things you would do differently. Can we just, and then I want to move on. But is there one particular thing that if you could hit the reset button, you'd say, God damn, I would do that differently?
Oh, man. Man.
Was it?
What were you going to say? Is it what?
No,
was it a relationship you had with a particular teammate or a manager?
I think there's I think a lot when you look back. I don't know if there's one particular thing. I wish I would have been a little better at being a people person, right? Like meaning being more outgoing, more happy. Like again, like that I couldn't do that. I couldn't fake that. Like I couldn't be that person and then go try to kick the other team's ass because that just didn't. I needed, like I said, I needed that. So
you needed that fuel. Yeah.
So yes, I wish I could look back and say, oh man, is there one particular relationship? I mean, listen, there was arguments I had with guys on my team, on other teams, and I wish I could go up and apologize to them and say, hey, we're cool. And take this for example. The other day I was with Verlander, right? And we were at a golf tournament, and I was talking to him, and we had a really long conversation. Him and I, we never really got along on the field, but we've kind of become, I don't want to say friends, but we're acquaintances off the field. And we talked for probably 20 minutes at a golf tournament, a little while ago. And it was cool because I'm like, listen, this is how and then after we talked, he's like, thank you for telling me what you told me. I understand more now. Right. Like it was cool because he was always a guy that I had a ton of at-bats off. We faced each other, every 6 times a year, and he'd pitch the whole game, and I'd get like 4 at-bats off him every game. And we had some wars. But now looking back, I'm like, and he was like, thank you. It was things like that. Like I just wish I would have been more maybe understanding to other people's feelings and other people's, that not everybody could do it the way I did it, and just kind of understand that. And as you get older, you got to look back and say, all right, I mean, there's not one. I mean, listen, I've aired out reporters, I've aired out teammates, I've aired out, and would I change it? Maybe, but at the same time, I mean, it's happened, and I'm not going to, I wish I had a time machine that could change a lot of things, but, it hasn't happened.
Did you ever want to punch Ozzie? Because I know Ozzie a little bit.
I mean, how much time do we have? I mean, which time did I want to punch Ozzie? I mean, still when I see him, I still want to think about punching him sometimes. Listen, Ozzie and I were great. Ozzie and I were great together because we already talked a little bit about it. Like he could say things and I would just be like, yeah, right. Bring it on. The one thing I'll say about Ozzie, he played me all the time, and he always knew he could put me in the lineup. Like he'd come to me and say, you good? Absolutely. Like that was the one thing about Ozzie. He always played me. He never asked me. One time he asked me to take a day off, and that was one of the times I almost wanted to punch him. We were playing the Cubs at Wrigley, and people that know my history with the Cubs and how much I love the Cubs and the Cubs fans and the whole Wrigley scene. And we were playing there, and he didn't start me. I think the only time when I was at the White Sox, I didn't start like a game against the Cubs, and he didn't start me. And I came in and said, what's going on? And he's like, oh, we're going to give, I think it was Toby Hall. We're going to give Toby Hall the start. It's a lefty pitch. I'm like, okay, whatever. And then he's like, but I got to answer all these questions about why you're not playing. I'm like, well, then just play me, you dumbass. Like, then you don't have to answer the questions, right? And so I was kind of mad about because it kind of came up like through the reporters. And so that was like, but I mean, most of the time, listen, Ozzie was great. Ozzie says things that you just kind of, as I played for him for all the years, you just kind of in this year, out the other year, move on. Gave us a good chuckle. I mean, I know like Canerco, Burley, Jermaine Dye, we'd come in, the reporters would be in our locker, and they'd be like, did you hear what Ozzie said? We're like, oh boy, what was it today, right? And it was great. And he won a World Series. He's the great White Sox manager, great White Sox player, and he's got a great family. Do I wish he'd shut up sometimes? Of course, but I mean, people say the same thing about me.
How was your relationship with the umpires for the most part?
I mean, it just depended on who the umpire was. I think.
Like, who was your favorite? Who was your favorite guy back there?
Tim McClellan was always good to me ever since I was young. He had his strike zone was like this though. Like I mean, like you had to there was no corners. It was all on the plate. So I'm like, Tim, come on, like we're gonna be here all day. People think like Ted Barrett was always good to me. I got to say Doug Eddings. I mean, because if you know my history with Doug Eddings, the Anaheim thing, and there was a Tampa Bay thing. He was good to me. Joe West. People think I hate Joe West. Like I actually love Joe West because he was really good umpire. When he wanted to be a good umpire, he was really, really good. He was funny back there. Wendell Statt's one of my favorites. Jerry Lane was one of my favorites.
So how far could you take it? Like if you think the guy's having a bad day, and umpires are just like the rest of us, like they're not going to be great at their job every single day.
No, and that's not. They're usually worse than more bad than good, depending on what side of it you're on.
Like how far could you go? Could you go, hey, listen, dude, you're really fucking us today, or could you not say that?
You is the magic word. You. If you say you, That's usually when you're gone. So like, yeah, I could say, hey Chris, you're having a terrible fucking day, right? Okay, but if you're like you're terrible, gone, like automatic. So you could kind of skirt it a little bit. Most, I don't know. I don't know how many times I was ejected from a game. Probably, I'm sure it was double digits, right?
Yeah, it was.
They were all warranted, and most of them were planned on my end, because usually most of them were late in the game, like the last inning, and I was just, tired of it, and I just wanted to get the heck out of there. So I'd be like, all right. I'd tell the backup catcher, whoever it was, I'd be like, hey, be ready, because I'm about to get bye-bye. And they'd be like, yeah, right. And then 2 pitches later, I'm out the door. There was only, let's see, I'm trying to think of a couple times. There was one, my first ejection was definitely not. It was in San Francisco. It was in Colorado I get hit by a pitch. The umpire, I get all the way to first. Umpire said I swung. I threw my batting gloves up in the air. The guy ejected me. And I ran off the field, and I said, he goes, you threw your batting gloves so high. And I said, well, we're in Colorado. It's higher altitude. They go higher in Colorado.
That's funny.
I think it was Brian O'Nora that got me for that one. There was a couple, like the Michael Barrett, I got ejected, which obviously wasn't planned.
Why? Because you kept throwing your face into his fist?
Exactly. No, I got, the umpire's report was they ejected me for exciting the crowd.
Yeah, well, you did. But I mean,
I thought that was the whole point to playing professional sports, is you excite the crowd. I know when I go to a game, I want to be excited in the crowd. So, yeah.
How often do people still bring that? Do they still, or is that over?
Oh, gosh, no. If I'm in Chicago, so my favorite is people don't really remember what happened. They're like, oh, I remember that time you punched Michael Barrett, right? Or, there's that always comes up, and I just kind of laugh about it. Like, everyone's heard the story 7 billion times. And it's one of the great, obviously, the Chicago moments, sports moments. I can kind of see it running in the top. What's funny is John Mabry, who was the first baseman in that game, he ended up in the hospital because like 4 White Sox guys jumped on top of him.
Jesus. He
had nothing to do with it, right? And then he was my hitting coach when I went to the Cardinals. So he's like, man, you got me good. I'm like, I wasn't even in it, but he's just a good guy. But, it's one of the moments that just in life that, you asked if you could do something over. Like, I wish that, do I wish it never happened? Of course. But am I glad it happened? Yeah, because, people remember me a lot in Chicago for that, getting punched, and then striking out in game 2 and running to first. So it's like I always joke, I'm remembered for striking out and getting hit in the face.
You also helped them break a little bit of a curse. So that was,
that's
well done.
That's
too.
okay.
Hey, want to get back to the umpire thing, the Quinn Walcott one where you were, I think you were in Cleveland.
Yeah, your favorite place.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did you really say what people claimed you said?
Well, do you see where that pitch is? That pitch is a strike. I don't understand why. Yes. So Brandon Workman, who's pitching, and he was struggling. We were having a rough go. And we were terrible that year, like the whole team. And so Quinn Walcott, the ball, it was close. Not really, I don't know. It could have been a strike. It was 3-0. The thing was, it kind of led up to that. I think we were losing that game pretty badly. And I said to him, he throws a ball, and I say, Quinn, can I have a new ball? And he goes, okay. And he goes, why? He goes, didn't hit the ground. I go, yeah, I need one, a new one. He goes, what do you need a new one for? I go, I need a ball you can fucking see. And if you kind of watch, he kind of reaches in his bag of balls, and he actually puts it in my hand. Like, if you watch, he reaches in, he's like, time, and he reaches in, he grabs a new ball, and he's like, wait, what? And then he's like, you can't say that to me. And I'm like, say what? He goes, tell me I need a ball I can see. I'm like, that's not what I said. He goes, yeah, it is. I go, that's not what I said, Quinn. He goes, what'd you say? I'm like, I need a ball you can fucking see, asshole. And then obviously John Farrell comes running out at me. And he got ejected. But what's funny is that's like everyone's favorite story. And I stole that line from a guy I played with in the minor leagues named Shane Gunderson. He played at the University of Minnesota. He was a catcher. And he said he played with this guy, and this guy used the line. So I had that in my memory for like years and years and years. And I finally got the chance, and I was like, this is my shot. I'm shooting my shot right here, and here we go. And people love that story.
That is a great one. It really is good.
As my wife in the background was like, yeah, that's amazing. I love hearing that story.
It is funny, though.
No, it's great.
I mean,
more people need to try it.
She's been with you forever, so she's heard it a gazillion times, but it is funny every time you hear it.
Exactly.
So, good.
Keeps getting. I'm gonna have to come up with like more. I have to come up with like better lines and stuff. You know, like
Tell her hi
more
for me,
lines.
by the way. I don't know if she
Oh,
remembers.
hopefully she's cooking dinner. I'm kidding.
This is where we're going now. Play nice.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Couple other things. One of your last stops, or was St. Louis wasn't your last stop. It was
next to last, 14.
Next. Okay. So Yachty was hurt, I think, and they brought you in. So you didn't really get to see Yachty play very much, did you?
The last couple weeks he came back and played.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there?
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go.
No, I was gonna say that it's a great. You know, we just showed the Quinn Walcott thing when I was with the Red Sox. So the Red Sox released me like right before the All-Star break-ish. So it was like around July 4th. We had a trip planned. My family and Aaron Rowan and his family, he wasn't playing anymore. We were going to meet in Boston for the All-Star break. We had an RV rented. We were going to go to Cape Cod, and then we went to Toronto, and then the family was going to drive to Toronto and meet us in Toronto. Well, I got released, so I ruined the family vacation, of course. So we rented an RV from Orlando, and at the time, Frank Thomas that was when Frank got inducted in the Hall of Fame. So he had invited us. So we rented an RV from Orlando, drove to Cooperstown in this RV, and we're in Cooperstown, and my 10 days were up or whatever. And so along the way, Aaron Rowan would flip balls to me, and I would hit on these softball fields, goofing around and hitting. So I think I was out 17 days. I was in Cooperstown. I actually thought I was going to sign with the Royals, who ended up going to the World Series that year because Perez was kind of banged up. So so I talked to Dayton Moore, the GM, on the phone in Cooper. I'm literally in Cooperstown at Frank's Hall of Fame induction. Next day, it was a Friday. I want to say a Thursday or Friday. And the next day we were on the lake, the Otesaga, whatever the lake is.
Yeah.
So that morning I got to go to breakfast at the Otesaga with every living Hall of Famer. So it was me and my son, who at the time was at 14. So he was 7 or 8. And so we're sitting and I'm walking through the breakfast area, and Al Kalin's like, "Hey, AJ, come have breakfast with me." And I sit down with McCarver and Bob Gibson and Carlton Fisk and pretty much every living Hall of Famer. So my son got to meet all these guys, right? So then we rented a boat. We go out on the boat. And I get a call from my agent. He says, "Hey, the Cardinals, Yachty went down. The Cardinals are interested." I said, "Okay, great." Because Matheny's going to call you in 5 minutes. Okay, perfect. Talk to Matheny for 20 minutes. Okay, my agent calls me all right, they want to sign you. Okay, perfect. He's like, "When can you get to Chicago?" I'm like, "Well, an hour and a half drive to Albany, flight to Chicago." He goes, "Okay, they have a day game tomorrow. Can you be there for it?" I'm like, "Sure, no problem." Literally leave the lake, get in a cab, drive to Albany, jump on a plane, Chicago, get there probably 7 o'clock that night, play the next game. Now, keep in mind, I hadn't played in 17 days, hadn't really touched the bat, hadn't touched the ball, go out and play in Wrigley. Arrieta's pitching, and this is when Arrieta was, I get 3 hits, right? Which they were like, "How the heck did you get a hit?" And I'm the only guy in history that went from release to Cooperstown back to playing. So it's kind of a great story how I ended up in St. Louis.
That's awesome. Was there an appreciation for what Yachty does?
Oh, 100%. 100%. After playing with him for the couple months that I did, even when he wasn't playing, he was around and involved and everything. Absolutely. The guy didn't take a day off ever. And that was something that I respect more than anything is guys that don't, you turn on, "Oh, I need a day off," or "I need a rest because I'm tired, fatigued." No. I was "Let's go, play every single day and go as hard as you can every day." And he does that. This year at the end of the year, we had a Cardinals game and Yachty wasn't playing. He was banged up, and we're on the field and Schilt's there and whoever I don't know who I was working with, but Yachty walks by, comes over, gives me a hug. "Hey, buddy, how you doing?" I'm like, "Man, 2 days in a row off?" I'm like, "You're getting soft." And he just gives me the nastiest look, never soft. And Schilt looks at me and goes, "You're the only guy I think that could say that to him." And he wouldn't just punch in the face. He's like, because that was great to see that he actually could take that from somebody.
Funny. Hey, more AJ Pierzynski coming your way in just a second. But first, you looking for the latest gear? You want a hat? You want a T-shirt? You want a hoodie? You want a blanket? Want a coffee mug? One-stop shopping. If you love us, you're going to love the JOMBOY Media Store. And I want to save you money. If you use the code word ROSE today, you get 10% off. So go do it. Go show my bosses how popular this show is. Okay, just type in ROSE. It's the easiest last name in the world. It'll save you 10%. Plus, we got great gear. Jake Sucks t-shirts, hoodies, blankets, hats, whatever you need for yourself or your friends or your family. It's just one-stop shopping. Go do it and save 10%. Let's get into your high school real quickly. A lot of people know that you went to the same high school as Johnny Damon. You two are not even the most famous people to come from there.
No, we're not even close. We might not even be top 5.
It's amazing. Go ahead and you can reveal.
Well, I mean, Wayne Brady, who everyone knows, right? From Let's Make a Deal. He was on What's My Line?
Yeah.
DJ Khaled, who everyone knows.
DJ Khaled's like right around your age group, isn't he?
He was 2 years behind me, I think. Then you have Joey Fatone, NSYNC, famous NSYNC guy. I'm sure you've heard of a song called Despacito, right, Chris? I'm sure you.
Of course.
You get suave with your wife to that song.
Oh, yeah.
Luis Fonsi, he was there when I was there. I'm trying to think. Clinton Dix was there.
Like, did you know these guys?
I knew Joey. Joey was 1 year behind me, so I knew him.
So when he gets big, you're like, holy shit, that's Joey Fatone.
Oh, well, Joey Fat One, we always goof with him because his name. But yeah, he's great. Like, when he sees me, we still talk, and he's good. He's a really good dude. Like, and then I've got to know Kirkpatrick, who was in Orlando for a long time too. He didn't go to DP, but yeah, he's another guy. Fonzie, I'd met. He was around. He was just kind of like 2 years behind me, I think. And he was like like Joey Fatone and him were like kind of in drama singing, which kind of wasn't really my gig back then.
Right.
But you knew they were like, these guys are talented, and they obviously made it. They did all right.
Yeah, they did okay. I think Wayne Brady's going to be the host of the high school fundraiser whenever everybody gets back there.
What high school fundraiser for you?
No. I mean, whatever high school reunion fundraiser.
Oh, you mean DP? Yeah, we need it now. We've fallen off the earth now.
You also, for people that have followed your career, know that you were a huge wrestling guy. And I knew that you had made a few appearances, but your one with Bob Barker that we are about to show is legendary off the charts. So enjoy this.
Ladies and gentlemen, a two-time All-Star and World Series champion from the Chicago White Sox, catcher A.J. Pierzynski. Come on down. You're the next contestant on The Price is Wrong. A.J. Pierzynski.
Welcome to Contestants Row, A.J.
Oh, thank you. Bob Barker, yes!
In person. Do you like the Cubs? No, they don't like that.
They don't like the Cubs.
No. AJ, I understand you're a real WWE fan.
I'm a huge fan, Bob. Been watching since I was little, but I'm a bigger Bob Barker fan. Price is Right forever.
Well, that's great.
Is that true?
Heck yeah. I mean, listen, Chris, we're close to the same age. Do you remember? I mean, you had like 3 channels. So if you're homesick, man, Price is Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was the jam back, those 80s, early 90s. Look at my hair. My hair matched Bob Barker's hair.
Dude, your hair was precious. Just as
So.
Yeah.
No, I don't like the Cubs. If anyone asks,
right?
He was asking. He wasn't asking me because he knew the answer. So we did that, and Jermaine Dye was there, and there was a couple guys there, and so I kind of knew. But they're like, you got to act like you didn't know we were going to pick you, right? So they do the whole thing and they announce it, and the place went crazy. Like, I'm talking nuts, right? Booing, yelling, everything. So I run up there, do the whole thing, and they tell me, they say, listen, you've got to say, I think it was $1,000 for whatever their trip to. You have to say 1,000. If you don't say 1,000, it won't match on the screen. And I go, okay, well, what are they doing? They're like, well, the winner gets body slammed, by Big Show, right? So they're like, if you don't say it right, I'm like, fine. So I'm like that, and I think Santino ended up losing. He ended up getting body slammed. But I mean, yeah, wrestling is. My family makes fun of me because I still watch it, but I still have buddies that do it or are in the business. So it's one of those things that was just a something I liked, and I still like it. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I don't watch it as religiously as I used to, but I still kind of know what's going on. I kind of Cliff Notes version with DVR. Now you can kind of fast forward to see what you want to see. But yeah, it's fun, and heck, I think you and we did some wrestling one time.
Hell yes, we did down in Orlando. It was brutal. It was not a good singlet look for your boy.
Can we get some? I mean, Rob, can we roll that video, please?
Yeah, I think I have told those people that is embargoed, as we like to say. Well, that one was that was amazing. Was that with TNA? Is that who we did?
Yeah,
it
it was TNA.
Okay,
yeah.
So I think Jeff Jarrett was the guy who was in charge of it all, right?
Yes, yeah.
And he was awesome. So we were in the production meeting, and they're like, okay. And for people that remember this on Best Damn, I always played up the wrestling is fake card, always. But I loved having the wrestlers on because they were so entertaining and they were so nice to everybody and gracious, and they were just wonderful entertainers and great people. So I was really kind of curious how they were going to play this. And they were like, Rose, we know your whole deal. They had a wrestling is fake t-shirt that I had to wear out in front of all these crazy fans who didn't know my whole shtick. But they were like, you're the biggest motherfucking asshole ever. Now I know what it was like to be you. And then they were like, okay, we're going to play the music, and Roddy Piper is going to come out, and he is going to take it to you. And I was like, well, hold on. What does this mean? And Roddy walks into the room, and he was a little bit lost at this point in his life, right? And he's like, listen, I'm just going to hit you, and it won't hurt. I was like, okay, but I will be wearing an IFB, a piece of plastic in my ear. So if you could hit me in this side of the face, just in case. He's like, no problem. I was like, oh, God, this isn't going to go well. So I get out there and I'm screaming, wrestling is fake. And here comes Roddy Piper. He fucking hits me in the wrong ear, puts the thing inside of my brain where they basically had to take pliers out and take it out. And then he took the fucking fire extinguisher full of baking soda and sprayed it in my face. I've been choking on baking soda because I didn't know it was coming. And all the producers of Best Damn, John Entz and Becker, are sitting here. They're going, throw it to break. Throw it to break. I'm like, like just the baking soda are coming out of my face. So, you okay? I think sounds like Roddy Piper got you too.
No kidding. I think the baking soda got me.
Jesus Christ!
Listen, wrestling is not fake. It might be scripted.
Yes.
Listen, I've hit people with chairs before, and I know they tell me do not let up. Like hit them as hard. Hit me as hard as you can, and I've done it. And I feel sorry for those people because they get up and they're like, "Oh, we're, great chair shot, brother." And I'm like, "Dude, like, how do you get up and take that?"
It's a great point. I should have never said. Here it is. Here it is. Look at this. So I can't breathe. And there's got John Entz and Steve Becker. Like, look at me. I'm like, this is it. By the way, great. Like I said, great singlet.
And by the way, was there ever a better show than Best Damn?
Don't ask me why I never continued after 8 years. That's a whole other offline discussion.
I mean, all those people are now all the executives at like every TV station in the world.
I know. And then
there's
a fun one. It was a fun one.
Then there's you putting face.
It's cute. All right, I'm going to ask you one serious question, and we're going to spin the wheel of moderately interesting things. You can go back to your life. The best pitcher you ever caught was?
Are we talking All-Star game or during the season?
Just period. Who's the guy?
I mean, Mariano Rivera was still I got to catch him in an All-Star game, and it was like the coolest thing of all time.
What made it so good?
Because he threw one pitch, and I could never hit it. No one else could either. It was unbelievable. I mean, he knew it was coming, and these are the best players in the world. And no one could hit it, especially I was left-handed. I mean, just broke my bat every time and just laughed.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to spin the wheel of moderately interesting things and get you out of here. Wild ride. Okay. What was your first car?
1983 Bronco 2.
Bronco 2?
Yeah. You don't even remember those, do you?
Is that a Jeep?
It's like a Bronco.
Yeah.
And they have like the small Bronco Sport now.
Oh.
It was like a Bronco 2. It was like a smaller Bronco. Great story about that car. My junior year, varsity. I make the varsity team my junior year. First game. Leaving school, all my stuff in it, locked the keys in the car. Had to break the window to go to the game. My first high school game. I mean, there was no cell phone. Shh. Had to drive the game and broke the window.
You did not punch it. Would you? I wouldn't even
We
know.
hit it
how
with a
you broke
bat.
the window.
We hit it with a bat and broke it.
Oh,
Yep. Great car, though. It was a great car.
how'd mom like that one afterward?
Yeah, they weren't real happy. They're like, how dumb can you be? I'm like, apparently pretty dumb. First game, locked the keys in the car. Car was running, too, by the way.
All right, dude. This was great to catch up. We have to do it more often, just in terms of rapping on the phone.
For sure. You're too busy, though. You have 8 jobs,
Definitely. Well, I do have 8 jobs, but I still find time to annoy my wife.
Who you got in the Super Bowl?
I think. Well, it's funny. I went back to my preseason prediction. I think the night of the first game of Dallas.
Browns. You had Browns, and
I did not. I had
Oh, wow.
Bills, and I
Yeah.
had Niners. And it's a long road for both, but it wouldn't shock me if it was that.
I agree. Yeah.
Did you go to
Did
the
you?
game last year?
The what? Super Bowl?
Yeah,
No.
you didn't go.
I gave up on the Super Bowls after you quit, getting me into the parties.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I if you want to fly out to LA, I could probably get you in.
I'm gonna say no to that
Pass.
one.
You'll pass. Why? Do you have a Super Bowl? You want to pick a winner here?
Well, I get it. Who's even know? I think Chiefs are gonna be hard at the AFC for sure.
Okay.
I mean, Chiefs Packers would be
That would be fun.
I
You
think
know
that
why
would be
it
fun.
would especially be fun? Because they
Super
have
Bowl
played
one, right?
they've played twice since Mahomes became a starter. Rodgers missed this year, and Mahomes missed the one before. So we've never had Rodgers against Mahomes.
That'd be pretty fun.
Hell yes,
That'd be great. But now that I root for the Bears because my son is the biggest Bears fan in the world, it's hard for me to root for the Packers
Sure is.
to win.
Yeah. Don't worry, they're going to get it right one of these years.
Well, they won in '85, so I mean, right around the corner.
Yeah.
It's like Georgia. Eventually you got to win.
Yeah. Every 41 years. Nice. Tell your family hello. My kids
too,
say
Bruce.
they were excited to hear that that old AJ was going to get interviewed today, so they send their best. These little monsters I got running around that are 6'4" and 6'1", and
How did you make such tall kids?
well, I'm not so sure they're mine. Got to be honest.
Oh, okay.
I'll let you know. The DNA swab's coming back next week.
23
love 'em.
ancestry.
Yeah.
Ancestry.
Tall cousins on both sides. Very tall first cousins, like 6'7", 6'8", on both sides. So I think that had something to do. At least I'm going with that story. Best to your family. Continued success on the Fox broadcasts. And when you do sneak into Cooperstown on that first ballot, don't be surprised when Rose gives you a call.
Okay, well, if I sneak into the first ballot, if I sneak in at all, Chris, and it's not with a ticket, you'll be my first phone call.
I'll be there. I'll take my RV with Aaron Rowan, and we'll meet you up there.
Perfect.
All right, buddy. Good catching up. Thanks for entertaining the viewers and the listeners out there. It was a good time.
Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Always fun with you, Chris.
Special shout out to our producer extraordinaire, Robbie Scirocco, who helped AJ Pierzynski attach his earbuds to his computer. And thanks very much to you for listening. We will see you next time on the Chris Rose Rotation, a production of JOMBOY Media.